you've joined us today to hear about NFTs, particularly from an arts organization perspective. We are going to cover a few case studies. I'll talk about what we're going to cover shortly, but I wanted to start with, why are we talking about NFTs now? Why is now a good time to get your head around NFTs? They've been around for a couple of years. They've been around for a while, but back in 2020, they were valued. The market value for NFTs was seen to be about $100 million. Jump forward 18 months to this summer 2022, and the market value has increased considerably to $3 billion. And it's predicted to continue rising up to $13 billion at the moment in 2027. So it's something that people are spending money on. They're putting their money where their mouth is, and thinking that NFTs is something that is worth spending some money on. So that is a first indicator that this is something that is growing and that will continue to grow as well. But is it something that's quite niche, or is it becoming mainstream yet? And the arts, we tend to follow technology. We tend to be a little bit behind, and we tend to wait until there's sort of mass adoption before we really get involved. So what are the indicators that it's starting to become more mainstream and not something that's really niche? Well, I think Time Out is a publication that many of us know. It's seen as a place about physical destinations. But if you go to their website now and look at their main menu, they've got one of their main menu items as the metaverse. And when you click on that, they're promoting the Metropolis world, this online metaverse that you can explore. And to explore it and be part of it, you've got to buy an NFT passport. What is an NFT passport? Well, maybe it's just a membership. We'll look into that maybe later. But they're obviously seeing this something that is becoming more mainstream, even though when I signed up, you have to have a crypto wallet. You have to get your head around how do you fund your crypto wallet? How do you track the security on it? As well as then purchasing plots of land or properties on this in Metropolis world. So something to indicate that this is becoming more mainstream. And then how many of you have heard about Damien Hirst's exploits at the moment and burning his artwork, which is all part of a sale he did some time ago, where he sold a series of works and the purchasers had the choice to either buy a physical version or the NFT version. Coincidentally, I was talking to my accountant yesterday, Ben, and Ben was telling me he bought two works. One he chose to keep as a physical artwork. He's a Damien Hirst fan, and the other one he bought the NFT. And he was telling me about how when he bought it, he didn't really understand what NFTs were. He didn't really get the point of them, but he's been converted, he says, because what came along with us was a whole bundle of other assets and opportunities and VIP invites to meet Damien Hirst and get works of art signed by him. So he's kind of converted to NFTs, even though he did admit he's hardly looked at this digital version of this artwork. So maybe something for discussion later on. So that's why we're talking about NFTs. We're going to give you opportunities to ask us questions, put them in the chat box whenever those questions pop into your head, but we'll leave some time at the end for that as well, and hopefully there'll be an interesting discussion. First of all, let me introduce myself and my fellow speaker, Yannick, and my name's Hans, and Yannick and I have talked about the metaverse back in the summer at the AMA conference. We touched on NFTs, but there wasn't enough time to go into it in much detail. So that's one of the things we wanted to come back to today, and that's another reason we're talking about NFTs. We'll hopefully talk, we've got about a 35-minute presentation, and then we'll leave about 10-15 minutes for questions. Let's try and finish within 45 minutes. We're all busy people. So we've got a survey we want you to help us with at the end. Please help fill that out as well. And with that, I'm going to hand over to Yannick. Oh no, I'm going to tell you what we're going to talk about first. So we're going to start off with an introduction to what NFTs are. So this is a beginner's guide to understanding what NFTs are. We're going to pick out 4 case studies. I'm going to take 2, Yannick's going to take 2, and Yannick wants you to vote on your favorite one. So a little bit of healthy competition between Yannick and myself there as to who comes up with the most relevant, thought-provoking, interesting case study that that you can then take and inspire you. And then we're going to look at together at how we can incorporate NFTs into your strategy, finishing off with a Q&A. And now with that, I'm going to hand over to Yannick.
Great, thank you, Hans. So kicking off with NFTs. So what is an NFT and what is it all about? So I'll give a couple of definitions and a couple of ways of explaining it. But to start off with, just to break down in text what it means. So NFT, it stands for non-fungible token. Non-fungible just means that it can't be changed. Token refers to a digital asset. So that's something like an image, a video, a GIF, anything that can be on your computer. So what you do is you take that digital asset and you pay cryptocurrency, so something like Bitcoin or Ethereum, and you stamp details onto that asset, and it makes it an NFT. So it's something like the owner, the maker, any sort of detail, but it's normally something to do with ownership and who's the original owner. And then you share that on a marketplace like OpenSea. An interesting thing is that when you make the NFT, you can say how many versions of it you want to be traded. So you could make just one version of it, or you could say we could make 50 or 100. So it really depends on the rarity that you want to make. And Hans will go into it in a bit more detail with his case studies. But I wanted to give you some examples of what NFT could be. So images. So this is an image of an artist that then has been created. It's a portrait from a photographer who's then digitized it and then created an NFT. Audio, which again, it's a digital asset. It's something that's on your computer. So it's been then created into an NFT. And videos as well. And I wanted to show you this one in particular. This is traded on a marketplace called OpenSea. So this is OpenSea, and someone has created this video into an NFT. It's actually got music with it as well. So basically, it's a 20-second snippet of a music video that's then being traded and sold as an NFT. So you can see here, it's been added some properties on it. And it was bought and sold for 0.25 Ethereum 6 months ago. These are the kind of things that are being sold as NFTs. That's the kind of marketplace they're looking at. So it's as you can see, it's a website. It's something that we're doing on the web. What do you need to make an NFT? So you need something that you want to make into an NFT, a digital asset. So an image, video, audio. You need a crypto wallet. So something like MetaMask or Coinbase or any of the apps that you can find. You can download them now on the Play Store very easily. You need some cryptocurrency. So once you've got the crypto wallet, you can buy some Ethereum or some Bitcoin or whichever cryptocurrency that the marketplace can stamp in. Then you need a marketplace or something like OpenSea. And that's where you're going to trade and make the NFT. So to really break it down bit by bit, you have an image, you have an asset, and you want to make an NFT. So you open your crypto wallet, you open up, you buy some Bitcoin, you buy some Ethereum, then you go to the NFT marketplace, or in some cases, you can do it direct on the app as well. It immediately links together, and you pay to make it into an NFT, and you stamp on the details that you want. You add certain things as well, like how many NFT versions of this NFT you want to make. So 1, 10, 100, depending on how rare you want it to be, and other options like this. But essentially, you're paying to stamp on some details. Once you've done that, you have an NFT. It's created, and to put some more of the words that fly around, that's then stored on the blockchain, which is just another way of saying it's then stored in a database. So blockchain is a specific way of storing data that's more peer-to-peer sharing, but essentially it's just storing it in a place, which happens to be the blockchain at the moment. Once you have the NFT, you then trade that on a marketplace. I couldn't actually find an image for a digital marketplace, but I think this sums it up really well. But there's just a lot of stuff there, and there's a lot of stuff for you to have a look at. 1 tomato, 2 tomatoes, and it's just, you know, it's a place where there's things being sold. So NFTs are currently mostly used when there's something, it's valuable to have some sort of original ownership. So in arts, who the original owner or the original creator is, when it's unique, some sort of uniqueness, maybe a specific event. As Hans will go into more detail, but with his case study, but when it's also good to be original owner, so something like ticketing or a digital passport. The other thing is that because you're paying direct to the blockchain, when you can choose that when the NFT is sold on, that you still pay back to the original creator. So it's a way of bringing fan bases closer to the original owner, original creator. We'll go a bit more detail again in the case studies. Something I sometimes hear, sounds good, but are they actually being used? Are they? It all sounds like a lot of great stuff, but where's it being used? And we're going to show you how it's being used in the arts, but just to say some of the successes that we're seeing is in ticketing, unique events, art collections, or I'm going to say the word fashion or fad. So because it's a new technology, a way of bringing fashionable people like digital nomads, doing something new, some sort of new behavior. These is where we're seeing a lot of successes in NFTs. But to give a total view, some of the failures that we're seeing. So the crypto crash. So cryptocurrency is currently in a market crash, or had a big market crash earlier this year, which means that the value of cryptocurrency has gone down. And as such, the value of NFTs have gone down. So that's one failure that we're seeing. And another one is in the gaming community, there's a lot of negative connotations with NFTs. And the reason being that it's seen as a way of monetizing items that were previously free in some communities of gaming. So it's kind of seen as a way of negative capitalism in action. However, there are lots of successes, and to give a total view, we wanted to give all the successes and failures, and we're going to go into more detail with the arts organizations. But before we go on, I thought it'd be great to get a spread or an idea of what's going on in the room at the moment. So in the chat, if you could pop in an emoji, emoticon, give us a thumbs up if you have any cryptocurrency or have ever bought any cryptocurrency. You can pop a smiley in to the Zoom chat. If you've ever made an NFT, and if you can high five if you've ever bought an NFT, and send a celebration if you haven't yet done any of these. Celebration, because then there's lots of interesting things to try. Hopefully you have some more agency after this webinar to where you can go next. Great, thank you. I'm seeing some, wow, great. I'm seeing interesting, great. So we have some people with cryptocurrency, some celebrations. Great, really interesting. A lot of celebrations, great. So after this, hopefully we'll have a bit of a roadmap and we can have a celebration with some NFTs. So with that, I will pass you over to Hans, who's going to talk about the first case study that we have for today.
So I wanted to start off with probably an area that we're most familiar with, and that is the art world. And I think this is probably the easiest way to get our heads around it, because there's probably a lot more stories that we've picked up on the news about this already. My personal experience last spring, I think it was, I'd read about it and wanted to find out more. So I went along to the Philip Plain shop in Bond Street. High fashion, not my world normally, and they had converted their top floor into a swanky NFT gallery. It was actually a collaboration of work between the fashion designer and another artist, and the result of this was, in my mind, it was Jeff Koons type shiny characters that were crossed with maybe something like Hello Kitty. It's not my culture, I promise. And they were selling those at quite hefty prices, and part of it was getting the NFT. And what I could work out from talking to the shop assistant, who probably wasn't that clear themselves, was that you were getting some sort of video, high quality video that the collaborators had worked on. So that was my first experience. Here we've got a screen grab from Unit Gallery. Now, Freeze has just finished, I believe, last weekend, and to coincide with that, Unit Gallery have put on an exhibition of generative art, so art that's been produced using computers. And here are some of the NFTs that are available for sale now on the Unit Gallery website. As well as that, on their homepage, they've got this really good panel discussion, a video of a panel discussion about generative art and the NFT market that you can watch if you want to learn more about this. But these are works of art, and you can see the top middle is 8 Ethereum, which is about £8,000. You've got another one there for 60. So this is happening all the time and more at the moment. But I wanted to talk about British Museum and La Collection. So La Collection is a Paris organization, and the founder of La Collection reached out using LinkedIn to 30 institutions, from museums to galleries, and British Museum responded positively to them. This is La Collection's website at the moment. They are currently selling 20 pieces of work by a Chinese artist, each one called God, and then there's a serial number there, and they're going for about €2,000. But these are NFT artworks as well. But what was the collaboration with the British Museum? Well, they've done 2 sales through La Collection and through their licensing department. The first one was of 200 works by a Japanese artist to coincide with an exhibition at the British Museum in 2020, I think September. And then a year later, they did an exhibition of work by Turner. This work was about 20 artworks. Now you see an example on the next slide, and this is just one of the works. These were works that were bequeathed to the British Museum back in 1958 by Robert Wiley Lloyd, and he was chairman at Christie's. And when he died, he bequeathed these 20 pieces of work. Now, what's quite interesting about them is they have got there was some restrictions about how they can be exhibited, and they could be exhibited 2 weeks in February or by special request, and they could never be lent out. Now, if you know museums and galleries, it's very important that they'd really like to lend their work out. And so this has been restricted. So working with La Collection, they were able to turn these into NFTs and put them on the market. They categorized them they made them into 3 groups. Now, the first group was called ultra rare. And for these, they only created 2 digital versions, highly, really good quality digital versions, one of which was retained by the British Museum, and the other one which was made available for sale through La Collection. Then there was and they did, I think it was 7 of these. So 7 of those 20 artworks were sold as ultra rare. Then there were 9 that were sold as super rare. And for these, they made 10 editions. One of each was kept by the British Museum, and then the others were sold on through La Collection. And then they took, I think it was 4, which were open editions, and here they made 99 editions. Now, for those open editions, they sold them for about €800 each. For those ultra rare ones, they sold them for about 5,000 each. Now, when you do the maths and you make an estimate for the ones I haven't got prices on, we're talking about somewhere between 400 and €500,000 in sales, of which some will presumably go to the British Museum and some will go to La Collection. So although there's not exact figures, British Museum admitted in one article that this is one of the best licensee sales that they've had basically to date. So they seem quite happy with it. There's very little information when you go to the British Museum's website. They seem to distance themselves from this. And it's interesting, if you look online for articles about it at the time, there is some negative articles about the ethics of doing this. It's questioned somewhat at the time. So if you're interested in this, it's definitely worth doing a little bit of research and reading about what some of the issues that came up at the time. So yeah, if we skip the next slide, my next case study was around seatlab. Now, I don't know how many of you saw the seatlab posters on the underground. I saw a load of them on the escalator panels over the summer. I was already interested in this because we were talking about the metaverse, and I wanted to do something more into the research at the time. But it's a little bit, it seems to be still early days for them. But they are, I couldn't quite understand why they were advertising a ticketing platform. If you think about the other ticketing platforms that we know, I couldn't think, why were they putting underground posters? And partly the reason is, and I'll come into this, is there's an app that goes with this, and you can download the app now. Now, what has NFTs got to do with ticketing? Well, if you follow at seatlab, and they're on social media as well, you can see that they've been running events, and you can access these events, you can purchase these events through the app, and I'll show you the app in a moment. But here's a photograph of one of the events. They did a series of concerts in September and ending in October, again, I think last weekend, at various universities around the country. Here's one picture. They've got a whole series of these, and they make the point that all these people, these mass crowd events, everyone there has been there because they've bought an NFT ticket. So they've gone for a particular market. You can guess why here, and they've got these people to buy these NFT tickets. So if we lose the slide for a moment, I turn up this. Yeah. So yeah, I think you can probably see here is the app, and what I can say here is that you've got a whole load of events that are being sold on the seatlab app. As it happens, there's not a lot of events. It's still early days for them, and you can learn why more about on their website. But they do have an event in March that you can buy for, and then these events, a lot of these events are free. So it's a great way for you just to dip your toe in the water and see what happens when you get an event. There's some exhibitions I've booked for one of them, so that appears in my ticket section there. If I click on it, I've got all the information. I can scan, get the QR code. I've also bought from them for £20. I bought a membership. So it's ticketing, but there's also membership. And I've got the Sapphire level membership. It's the only one that's available. There are 2 other tiers, but they're not available at the moment, it seems. And with that, you get all these sort of freebies, or you get all these added value things. So there's invites to VIP parties. There's a mystery box draw every month. And so this just gives you an example of the sorts of things that you can get with the memberships, and you can bundle up with memberships in the future. What else is there to say about seatlab? Yeah, I guess there's 2 points to make with NFT ticketing. One of the things is, because of the technology of the blockchain, you can perhaps track that second-hand sales market. So we know with ticketing there's issues around touting, ticket touts, scalping, where bots go and buy bulk tickets of events and then sell them at higher prices, pricing out maybe the real fans. But also there are genuine reasons why people sell on tickets, you know, just personal people who just buy a ticket and then can't go and want to sell it on to a friend. When it's done on the blockchain, it's all tracked. So you can monitor how that's working. Also, you can fix into the sale a percentage going back to the artist or the licensee or the event holder. So there's a way to configure how those things are sold on as well. So that's one area that NFT ticketing hopes to revolutionize. And the other area that we're hearing a lot about is the added value to the artist-fan relationship. And that goes back to my accountant buying his NFT of Damien Hirst and getting to see all those events and getting to have that communication with the ticket holders, with the NFT holders. So that is another area that we're seeing with the benefit of the NFT ticketing.
So coming on to my case study, so the third case study, thank you, Hans, is something called Third Act Digital. And Third Act Digital have basically created an offering, which is selling NFTs, and they've built a website and linked it to OpenSea. So you can see here they've got NFTs, and basically every NFT is made from something in the theatre, and it's a way of getting closer to the theatre. They have got a great explainer video, which I think sums it up really well. So I'm going to play this for you now. I'm just going to double check with Hans. Can you give me a thumbs up if you can hear?
We're for theater fans, the ones who sing the soundtrack so many times, their coworkers start humming along, who give directions by saying, go upstage, stage left, downstage, stage right, and take a bow, because you've reached your destination. We're for musical nerds, Shakespeare stans, theater kids, and fans who aren't off book by Tech Week, because they're always off book. The ones who wish the show would never stop, because for us, it doesn't. When the curtain closes, let the third act begin. Third Act is theater's first NFT marketplace where fans from New York to London, Sao Paulo to San Francisco connect to share and collect theater's most memorable moments. Everything sold through Third Act comes straight from the shows you love, with a percentage going back to the people who make them. Experience your favorite shows on a whole new stage. Welcome to Third Act, where theater collects.
So what they're doing is they're creating NFTs by either taking photos or making videos or any of these kind of things of, I'm going to call them artifacts of the stage. So something that's left over or something from the theater, something from the stage. They're then selling them as NFTs, and they're setting it so that the original owner, every time it's traded, also gets a percentage of that sale. And what they're really showcasing is it's a way to get closer to the theatre digitally. So you can not only buy, but co-own a part of this theatre experience. And I think they're really catering to fan bases. And something that Hans mentioned when we were building for the metaverse and we were making our own roadmap and journey into the metaverse, we held roundtables with multiple different people and parties from many places. And something that came up is that fan bases are always looking for ways they can get closer to the work. Your fans and also your super fans, they always want to get really close. And I'll always remember that there's after a music concert, the clothes that person has worn. Sometimes that becomes, so priceless. It's the jacket that was on the stage, and it can be, like a sweaty t-shirt or something like this, but because it's got this rarity, uniqueness, and real closeness to the work, the fans and super fans, absolutely, it's valuable to them, and it gives them a real closeness. And I think this is really what Third Act Digital is doing. It's taking things from the theater, making them NFTs, and then bringing people a way to get closer to that. And then with the NFT part is that then the original owner or the original creator is getting a percentage of those works. And the final one I have is not a specific case study, but it's just a trend that I'm seeing. And I'm seeing a lot of interesting things going on with music. I've got 3 to share. So the first one on the left, this collects unique songs. What this organization or person has done is they've created songs that basically are unique every time they play. So if we imagine there's, for example, maybe 30 layers in a song, every time you hit play, a unique combination of those layers will play. So maybe only 7 will play, or 13, or a different, maybe the drums will just play with the melody. Every time they play, it's unique. And the way that they're selling these is as NFTs. They're kind of doubling down on these NFT, on the uniqueness, on the rarity. So it's a unique song that plays uniquely each time. And then it's traded, and again, it's traded on OpenSea. You can buy these tracks on OpenSea, and then you have this rare track or unique track with this rarity element to it. The one in the middle, this artist put out a 6-second snippet of their song, and then sold the song, but specifically sold the distribution rights with the song if someone bought that NFT. And there was a big launch that was going up for it and a big campaign. And basically, as you can see, it sold for $23,000, which at the time was 13 Ethereum. And then the person that has bought that then has distribution rights, and it's all within the NFT. It's all stamped on that they are allowed to do that. And the final thing that we were seeing in music is unique classical recording. So a specific orchestra going to a specific venue with specific acoustics and recording a specific composition. When they have this unique one-time only recording. So imagine something like London Philharmonic recording in the Royal Albert, a specific Beethoven symphony. That it's got this real unique ownership and rarity that they did it at this time. And it's amplifying this uniqueness and rarity. So there's a lot of people using music and NFTs as a way of creating uniqueness and a way of directly sharing that rarity with the audience and with their fans. So that's the 4 case studies, and there's a lot of information there. And there are more takeaways than what we've put here, but we just wanted to highlight some of the patterns that we saw in our case studies. So the very first one is it's seen as a way of getting closer. So that really you're almost meeting the creator, like Damien Hirst, then also meeting the purchasers, or maybe being a co-owner or distribution rights. It's seen as a way to bring fans closer to the work, closer to the origin, and really co-own a part of the work. There's always something to do with rarity or uniqueness, something about it's the only one, it's 1 of 10, something about uniqueness, rarity, one time only. And then new technology. It's really seen as something new. So it's about doing something new, maybe with something old, or bringing something modern, something contemporary to something that maybe is not contemporary at the time, or some way of bringing new technology, new audiences, digital nomads, and really bringing new things to it, or seeing the same idea in a new way. There's something about these patterns. But if you do have any other takeaways, do note them down. You can share them in chat. When we get back to the Q&A, or when we get to the questions, it would be great to talk these out. And me and Hans, we've gone out and we had a look at these, but it's great to hear everybody's opinion, and our opinions, are also opinions. So it's great to share them and see what everybody's thinking, and where we think it can go. But as Hans also mentioned at the beginning, I did want to ask you what your favorite case study was for today. And if you pop in the chat from numbers between 1 and 4, and don't feel that you have to write 1 or 2. You can be truthful and just write mine.
You have to write 1 and 2. Either 1 or 2 is fine.
But if you write down what's been your favorite case study from today, if you do have any case studies that you do want to share, absolutely, when we get to maybe there's other examples you want to share, do take a note. Well, when we get to the Q&A, we can have a look, and maybe we can total up something. Great, thank you. I'm just going to have a quick look at the chat.
Diplomacy, Fiona. I know.
It's a bit of both. Great, thank you so much, everyone. I'll hand you over to Hans for the last bit.
Yeah, really. I just wanted to trail what I'd like to do in the Q&A bit, and I'd like you really now to just take a few moments to think about your own, the work that you do, who you work with, and how could you imagine NFTs supporting them, working with them? What are the obvious ideas? Now, I think every time new technology comes along, we start off with the obvious things based on what we've done before. And I think that's a great place to start. Over time, that starts to evolve and we get more sophisticated ways of using that technology. But what are the obvious things that come to mind for you? And just take a few seconds to jot that down, just to sort of give you a flavor. I used to work in a theatre, and what I was always impressed when they were creating new productions was the artwork that went with the costume designs or the set designs. I always thought they would, make great pieces of art. Many of you have probably seen these used this way before. It wasn't just me who thinks about that. But could those be taken as NFTs? Could they, could they be turned into NFTs and sold to super fans, or auctioned off to super fans? So are there other ideas like that that you can think of? So I'm conscious of the time. I'm going to take a pause. I'm going to ask you all to multitask, something I find very difficult. So while you're writing that down, could you also take a few moments to complete the survey? We've come to the end of our presentation, so it's a good opportunity to ask you what you thought, and we want you to be completely honest, and it's anonymous. 6 very quick questions. I'm going to put the link in the chat. Oh, wrong screen's just come up on my screen. Put the link in the chat, and if you can just complete that, that will give us a little bit of honest feedback that we can help us improve future webinars. And then also, while you're completing that, a bit more multitasking, I'm going to tell you about a few more webinars that are coming up. So we've got, they're also on our website. I'm going to pull up the link on the website in just a second. But these are 3 that are the next 3. There are more on the website. So we've got next month, we've got how to create engaging images and video content in-house. So whether you're a freelancer, whether you're working in an organization, there may be times when you want to do this work, and we've got some tools that we can share with you, some techniques, some advice that members of the marketing team here can share with you. We want to round up the year with getting out the crystal ball and looking at what the trends are for 2012. My hope, we haven't started writing this yet, but my hope is that we'll get 12 trends that we can share with you over, 1 every 2 minutes. So really sort of quick fire trends that you can look out for next year. Hopefully get a sort of end of term Christmas party vibe going for that one. And the next month, January in the new year, we'll do a TikTok update. Now, the team did one earlier in the year. It was probably our most popular webinar. We had over 100 people in that session, and on the back of that, we've now been doing strategy work for clients like Trinity Lab and Conservatoire, Birmingham Royal Ballet. So we want to share some of we've learned more, and of course the platform has progressed since then, and the way the techniques that people are using have changed. So the team wants to do an update on that in January. So that's the next 3 webinars. You can go along to the website, sign up for those, particularly something like the TikTok ones, which get very popular. And then finally, before we come back to the Q&A, we've got our newsletter that we send out every quarter, every 3 months, and we share recordings of our webinars, so you can access those. We tell you about future webinars just as we're signing up, new blog posts, tips and insights, all of those sort of things. We'd love you to be part of that so you can join the conversation and we can talk to you in the future. But now back to the question and answer. Next 5-10 minutes, it would be great. Have you had time to think about how you can imagine using NFTs with the clients that you work with, the organization that you work at? What would be the sort of thing that you could imagine happening in a couple of years' time, maybe sooner, maybe later? What are the sort of things that we've got? So please add those into the chat box now. And I can see one that's already come from Andrew. Thank you, Andrew. So for Northern Print, the obvious would be to scan an original print, but it feels like there is a more contemporary or innovative outcome to be expected. Or is an NFT marketplace primed and happy to trade in a digitized version of a physical print? I think that's a really good question. Anyone want to chip in? You can turn your microphones back on. We can have a conversation as well. Does anyone want to help with Andrew's question there? Or Andrew, do you want to add anything to that as well?
Oh, hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you nicely. Thank you.
Yeah. No, it's really interesting area, and I think the bit that I'm struggling with is we're just an analog organization, so everything's just ink, print, handmade, and it's just transferring that to the marketplaces. And a lot of the examples I'm seeing are obviously digitally created works, which seem to naturally sit in that arena. So it's just fascinated by it and just trying to, I guess, longer term, come up with ways of exploring it that isn't just, let's scan something that's print based and make it digital. So just, yeah, really interesting topic.
I mean, I think it's about sort of understanding, the niche marketplaces that are out there, and the value it is to those in some ways, and bringing it back to what can you do that's that's rare and valuable to that audience, which I think kind of ties in a little bit with what Stuart is asking, which is, what is to stop a gallery from releasing another NFT for a specific artwork at a later point, thereby devaluing the original NFT? I don't think there's anything in my head. I don't think there's anything to stop them doing that. And absolutely, that could devalue it in some ways. Just in the way that I think in my head, I first of all thought that NFT artwork was always unique in some way. Yes, there's a unique token or a serial number associated with it, but the actual work isn't unique, as we saw with the British Museum doing 2 copies or 10 copies or 99 copies. So there's nothing to stop someone, because it's digital, bringing another version out at another date. And will that disappoint the original buyers who think they've got something unique? I think, I don't know, time might tell. I don't know if anyone else has got an opinion on that.
I can see, Brendan, you put your hand up. Do you want to unmute?
Yes. Hi, everybody. I'm
Hi.
Brendan, and I'm actually an NFT artist, and also an NFT gallerist curator for a company called Searchlight. And I just wanted to sort of diffuse a couple things.
Right.
In the purchasing of an NFT, and in terms of working with galleries, the object of getting an NFT is so that, number one, the creator gains royalties, right? As you can attach a royalty up from anywhere, depending on the platform, of 5% to 25%, depending on the artist and depending on the platform's allowance. As well, when somebody purchases an NFT, that means that that person gets to collaborate on that NFT. In other words, they can take that NFT and recreate it, or add to, and then attach the originator's name to it in hopes to resell it on the market for higher value. And I think that was what, for me in the beginning, that's what drew me into this platform and into this world, was that the opportunity to make more money, and the opportunity as an artist to, have a gain back much later, for later sales. But I think that the one thing that we don't talk about much, and should be perhaps spoken, is how to integrate the real live piece, such as the gentleman earlier was talking about prints. How do you integrate that and implement that into the NFT? So that's a great opportunity for extra earnings, in that would be considered the utility. So if you have a print that is attached to the NFT, you would indicate that and hope that you could, retrieve and receive more monies in that way. I don't know if I'm making any sense. I just wanted to offer that, and also wanted to just finally say that community is everything behind an NFT, and that's a really hard thing to build. That's been my thing all along. Is like, how do you promote an NFT if it's a one of one or if it's a collection? Thanks for letting me share.
Well, thank you. And it's great to have you and sharing your experience there, because obviously it's an area that's very close to you, and it's great to have that insight. So thank you for putting your hand up there.
It's a really good point as well, Brandon, with linking it with real. And it's always the thing, I think, with digital, how we bring the two together, like with the pandemic showing us hybrid, how we bring digital and live experience together. I think some examples have been, as you mentioned, that you can get an NFT and attached to it, or has a physical print so that you can post out the physical print as well. Or like Damien Hirst doing, you know, his also as a contemporary artist and burning the old works. So this kind of is that there is nothing else. And it's very, you know, like Banksy with his stunts and things like that. So it's interesting how contemporary art, modern art, how the different eras of art will approach creating this uniqueness or these kind of events or campaigns around it.
Great. Does anyone want to share any other questions or how you imagine NFTs could work in the areas that you are? Otherwise, I'm conscious that we're going slightly over time now, so but I don't want to cut anyone off if you've got anything else to add.
Oh, there was one question from Deepak. I'm confused by how much money you need to put up an NFT. It depends, but it doesn't have to be a lot. I made one for under £1. It depends on how many you make and which platform you're using.
Great. Well, thank you. As I said, if there's no other questions, oh, there's one new message just come in. Let me just say, oh, there's a thanks. So thank you again, everyone. Thank you for joining us. It's been a great opportunity for us to develop our thinking and our understanding on this topic following our metaverse talk. And I hope there'll be other topics like this. And yeah, I hope we get to see you at future webinars as well. Thank you again for joining us today, everyone.